Breaking news in the Bronx. This is Bronx Fan Central.
What's up, most passionate fan base in the world? You have no idea about the drama unfolding behind the scenes. We've backed off the pursuit of the Detroit Tigers' left-handed starting pitcher because of our injured outfielder. And to make matters worse, the Toronto Blue Jays are trying to pull off a blockbuster trade with the Boston Red Sox for a 38-year-old veteran reliever to challenge us head-on. Don't miss this update for anything. Smash that like button and subscribe to the channel. DWS1 is Skubal to the Yankees. The best pitcher in baseball is available. 2 Cy Young Awards. 26 years old. And the Yankees are hesitating. That's not strategy. That's fear. Bronx Nation, I need you to pay attention because this moment will define how we look at this organization 5 years from now. That's not an exaggeration. When a talent of Tarik Skubal's caliber becomes available, you don't sit around doing the math. You go get him. And what I'm about to show you is exactly why Aaron Judge's injury cannot be the reason that blocks the biggest move of the season. Because if the front office uses that as an excuse, we'll be regretting it for years. An analysis published by MLB.com ranked the Yankees as only the 4th best landing spot for Tarik Skubal in a potential trade with the Detroit Tigers. Travis Sawchik's article points out that if Aaron Judge were 100% healthy, the Yankees would climb significantly on that list. With Judge sidelined, the front office's logic becomes more conservative, investing heavily in a championship run while the team's biggest star is on the injured list could be viewed as a waste of resources. FanGraphs still gives New York a 14.3% chance of winning the World Series, making them the 2nd most likely team in the American League. But Judge's absence directly impacts the organization's willingness to part with prospects in pursuit of the 2-time Cy Young winner. The 3 criteria used to rank Skubal's potential destinations reveal a lot about the Yankees' true position in this race. Division leaders, teams that need just one ace, and franchises whose championship windows are closing. New York does not strongly fit any of those categories. The Yankees' rotation is not in collapse. Max Fried is pitching well. Carlos Rodon has become relevant again. Garrett Cole still exists when healthy. That makes the urgency of acquiring someone like Skubal seem lower than it actually is. On top of that, the organization has promising prospects who would likely have to be included in any package sent to Detroit, increasing the cost and reducing the front office's appetite for the deal. Atlanta, Los Angeles, and Milwaukee are all ranked ahead of the Yankees because they have a more obvious need and a simpler trade framework. Here's where I disagree with all of it. You put Skubal in front of a rotation featuring Fried, Rodon, and Cole, and you're telling me that team doesn't win the World Series. That's not a rotation. That's organized crime against American League hitters. And using Judge's injury as a reason to avoid this move feels like the kind of decision we'll be calling a historic mistake in a few months. Do you think the Dodgers waited until everything was perfect before building the best roster in baseball? No. They stacked talent and trusted the process. When you have a chance to acquire the best pitcher on the planet, a 26-year-old with 2 Cy Young Awards, you don't ask whether your right fielder is healthy. You make the deal and figure out the rest later. The Yankees' bullpen has blown important games all season long. Starters who can pitch deep into games solve exactly that problem. Bronx Nation, let me ask you directly. Would you let Skubal slip away because of an injury that could be completely resolved by October? Skubal is also under team control for multiple years, meaning any trade would be about much more than this season. It would be a medium-term investment that protects the Yankees' rotation for an entire competitive cycle. The prospect cost would be significant, but the organization has enough talent in the farm system to assemble a competitive package without destroying the franchise's future. If the Yankees stay out of the bidding and one of the 3 teams ahead of them gets the deal done before the trade deadline, the impact on the playoff race could be immediate and brutal. Atlanta with Skubal in a short postseason series is a completely different challenge. The Dodgers with Skubal in October is practically a championship guarantee. Milwaukee with Skubal would instantly make a small market team a favorite thanks to one elite addition. And the Yankees? They would still be relying on a bullpen that keeps falling apart when it matters most. Bronx Nation, the decision is coming before the trade deadline, and once it's made, there's no going back. Do you agree that Judge's injury justifies staying out of this race? Or do you think this front office needs to stop playing scared and go all in for championship number 28? Let me know in the comments. There may not be a right answer, but there is an answer we'll have to live with for a very long time. EDWS2, Sheephammon, and Tiaza Dabu, Jays. You were expecting the Blue Jays to target a starting pitcher, right? Then this report drops, and it's far more dangerous than you think. Aroldis Chapman, 38 years old, is posting a 0.43 ERA for the Boston Red Sox in 2026. 28 strikeouts in 20.2 innings. A 0.92 WHIP. Those are dominant closer numbers, not the numbers of a declining veteran. With Boston heading toward a lost season, Chapman's name has emerged as a possible trade target for the Toronto Blue Jays ahead of the trade deadline. The idea would be to strengthen Toronto's bullpen rather than focus solely on adding a starter, representing a significant shift from what most observers expected from the Blue Jays' front office. Bronx Nation, when I saw Toronto linked to this name, I'll admit I stopped everything. Because Chapman used to wear Yankees pinstripes. We know exactly what he's capable of when he's at his best. And what he's doing for Boston in 2026 is simply absurd. A 0.43 ERA with nearly 30 strikeouts in just 20 innings. That's not a comeback. That's a resurrection. And if the Blue Jays complete this deal before July, Toronto suddenly has a bullpen capable of deciding any short playoff series. Do you realize how big of a problem that would be for the Yankees? The point most analysts are overlooking is that Chapman is not just a regular season closer. His entire career has been built on postseason baseball. His October numbers show a pitcher who elevates his game when the pressure increases. Toronto already has a competitive roster with a legitimate path to the playoffs. What the Blue Jays lack is not offensive talent or enough starting pitching to get there. What they lack is exactly what Chapman provides, a dominant arm that shuts the door without question. Playoff series are decided in the late innings. The team with the best arm in the 9th inning in October has a real advantage that no regular season analysis can fully capture. Let me put two scenarios on the table for you. In the best-case scenario for the Yankees, Boston decides to keep Chapman, or the trade price becomes too high and Toronto walks away. The Blue Jays continue with a mediocre bullpen, New York maintains its edge in the division, and Chapman remains out of the equation until his contract expires. That's the scenario Bronx Nation wants. Now for the concerning scenario. Boston decides to sell before July because the season is beyond saving. Toronto pays the price, Chapman becomes the Blue Jays' closer, and suddenly you have a team that already hits well, has respectable pitching, and now possesses the best available closer on the market. That completely changes the importance of a 3-game series between the Yankees and Blue Jays in September. It changes the stakes of divisional matchups during the final weeks of the season. It changes what happens if these teams meet in the playoffs. And you know it's realistic, because we've already seen Chapman close impossible games. When he enters October mode, he becomes something entirely different from anything Toronto currently has in its bullpen. I can't ignore that. Can you? The American League East remains one of the most competitive divisions in baseball in 2026. The Yankees are leading or battling for the lead, but Toronto is not far enough behind to be dismissed. If the Blue Jays add Chapman to their bullpen, the immediate impact would be felt in head-to-head matchups between the two clubs, which still have an important series remaining before the regular season ends. A stronger bullpen also changes how Toronto's manager handles his starting pitchers, allowing them to work with less pressure. Chapman, still producing these numbers at 38 years old, also raises another market question. If Boston truly becomes willing to trade him, National League contenders could enter the bidding and drive up the price, potentially pushing Toronto out before negotiations even get serious. Bronx Nation, this move has not happened yet. Right now, it's still a rumor, speculation, and part of a hot trade market ahead of the deadline. But you need to keep your eyes on it, because if it becomes reality, the AL East gets even tougher than it already is. So let me leave you with this question. Would you rather see the Yankees respond by adding a major piece of their own, or do you trust the current roster to handle the pressure? Let me know in the comments. And for anyone interested in Yankees merchandise, I've left a few links in the description.